Okay, so we're going to continue our tutorial now by finishing up this area here. So we have to duplicate special this guy, and then we have to add two more sort of off-center cubes. So what we can actually do is duplicate this guy and just put them here, duplicate these two front pieces, and then place them in the back. So let's knock that out really quick. So edit, let's click our duplicate special button. Let's just place this guy back here. And it looks like they're a little wider and they're rotated to match the same position. So if you hold W down and you left click, you can actually change the pivot mode. So right now it was on world, which matches the axis of the main pivot of the world. If I want to move an object according to its local, I hold W key down and I left click and I go to object mode. And now I can scale it up according to the axis of the object. So you can see there. And what I'm going to do with this guy is, again, I'm just going to I want to actually flip it so I don't have to rotate it. So I'm going to go to edit, duplicate special down here, and in the scale I'm just going to make it a -1. So watch what will happen to our object. So if I hit apply, what happens, as you can see, so let's go to our move mode, it duplicated it and it flipped it according to that axis. So see how this pivot point is pointing this way and now this pivot point is pointing that way. So that's one way of doing it. So for example, we have this guy. If I go ahead and hit apply, you'll notice that we've duplicated it, and now I can just move that over and it's flipped that piece for me. So let's go ahead and hit W, left click. I'm holding W down, I'm left clicking, I'm going to go to world, and I'm going to hit apply, and now I've duplicated it according to that axis. So now I can just move it into place here. So let's rotate this. Alright, so we have that guy and we have that guy into place. Looks good. And hit W and just go local or object again. I might just scale both of these guys up a little bit. There we go. Alright, so I got these guys back here. I'm going to place them closer to the wall, sort of like this guy is. And let's just go ahead and select all of these. Select duplicate special, move them over. Hit G to redo that duplicate special we just did. Okay, now we need to get a bunch in here. Let's just make sure that there's 8. Looks like there's 8 there. So I'm going to hit G again, but the issue is they're all selected, but if I hit E to rotate, you can see they're rotating on their local axis. So what I have to do is actually go up to edit and go to group or control G, and that'll allow me to rotate them all in tangent. But I want to make sure that my pivot is centered to my rotation, so I'm just going to hit that center pivot button that we created earlier. If you forgot to make it, it's under modify, center pivot. Okay, so let's rotate these guys. And let's do it about 50 degrees. Looks good, just to keep it kind of, might need a little bit more. Let's see, what does that give us? So about 55 degrees. Alright, and let's just move these guys into place here. Alright, looks like we might have to go 57 degrees. So let's do 57. And I'm going to go ahead and hit apply so that I have them duplicated. Actually, let's remove that -1 in scale. And then just hit apply so that we have these guys. And let's move these guys into place. And let's do a positive 50, or let's see, a -57. Move these guys into place. Alright, so we've got the banister done. And yeah, we're looking pretty good here. Alright, so let's go back to our image. The next thing we're going to do is actually add in these windows. So we actually have, we're going to have to create in our cube 3 subdivisions going up and down. So one here, and then we're going to have to add, so that's 2 subdivisions there, and then we're going to have to add 1 more subdivision going this way, so that we can block in that area of the window. So, so let's check our height. The height of this front area, because it looks like this part of the building gets pushed in a little bit, goes to about halfway, or a little bit below, a little bit above halfway of these 2 pillars. So let's right click and go to vertex mode. And all I did by dragging out that marquee is I grabbed all these top verts and I'm going to pull them down. Great, there we go. I'm going to right click and go to object mode and go to change it to polygons, edit mesh, grab my insert edge loop tool, and I'm just going to add a couple cuts in. So one here, I'm just kind of lining it up with those front guys, and 1 more down here. Alright, let's double check our reference. So the windows sit, let's zoom in. The windows sit just outside of these 2 pillars that we created. Okay, so let's hit spacebar, and I'm right clicking. So I hold spacebar down, and I'm right clicking on the word my, and I go to front view. Okay, and let's go to object mode. So our front pillars are here. So let's go ahead and create those windows. So the way I create windows is I go to face mode and I select this face. And it doesn't matter the game I'm on, I always make windows the exact same way. I'm going to go to edit mesh, and I'm going to hold Control Shift again, and I'm just going to add my extrude to my tabs bar here. So let's hold Shift and select each one of these. I'm going to hit extrude. Now if I hit the scale button, what you'll notice is all of these faces are together, and I want to extrude each face individually. So in the inputs down at the bottom, you'll see an area that says keep faces together. You can either type the word off or hit 0 because it's a Boolean value, and it'll turn it off. Now when I scale it, you can see it scales all of these guys on their own. Okay, which looks pretty good. If you don't see this, so for example, if you have all of these guys and you want to select keep faces together, but you don't, but your view looks something like this, you can click up here or hit Control A. Okay, so let's do that one more time. I'm gonna extrude that out, scale these guys in, and again, notice how I'm clicking this guy. I do not want to keep faces together, so let's hit 0 and enter that in. Something like this. Let's scale these guys in a little bit. And what I'm going to do is on each one of these faces is I'm just going to scale them down individually and move them over and down. So I'm going to tweak these all on their own. So something like this. And let's move that over a little bit going this way. Let's double check our reference. So they're not that high, and they actually sit just, they sit pretty close to the floor of my balcony. So let's bring them way down. I'm going to right click and go to vertex mode, and let's pull these guys way down going this way. Alright, let's tweak the next one. I'm going to pull this guy way down going this way. Right click, vertex mode. And again, I'm in my front view, so I'm just eyeballing this edge. Select this face, hit R, scale this in, move it over by hitting W. I'm going to pull these 2 verts down, pull them over just a little bit. And again, let's double check our reference on how wide these windows are. You can see that they butt just up to the wall, and that this window in the middle is a little bit bigger than these other 2 guys. Okay, so let's grab this face here. Let's bring it closer to the wall. And let's grab these verts here. Bring that over. Same thing with this guy. Let's bring it over here. Right click, go to vertex mode. Let's pull this over. And I'm just going to select all 3 faces in the middle here. Hit R and then just scale that up. Alright, let's go to object mode. Go to perspective. It looks pretty good. We might have to scale in our entire, let's scale these guys in just a little bit. Yeah, we might have to scale down our entire building, but for now that looks pretty good. Again, I I don't want to use exact measurements when I'm first starting to learn the model because I'm trying to train my eye to see the shape. And you don't want to become reliant on measurement tools and things like that because your building will look boring and static. Especially if you're going to be working in something like this where it's not completely symmetrical. You can see we have more of these pillars up here, things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and intrude, or using the extrude tool, like push in these windows. Alright, so I'm going to right click, go to face mode, select each one of these guys, hit my extrude tool, and just push them in. So something like that. Looks pretty good. Let's jump back in. We want to create a nice box window casing around each one of these guys, and that's pretty easy to do. So let's go ahead and actually I can just select this box here and hit Control D, not duplicate special, and I can just sort of move that into place here. Actually, I want to introduce a new tool that might be pretty cool. I'm going to right click and go to face mode, and what we can do is I want to introduce the under Edit Mesh, we have the Duplicate Face tool, and what that does is allows you to actually duplicate the face on the geometry. Alright, so with that face duplicated, so if you click off and click back on, you can see that that face is now set. We can right click and go to vertex mode. And again, I'm dragging out big marquees so I can grab vertices that are hidden behind other objects. I'm just going to pull that down, and I'm going to create a face for my window. So something like this. I'm going to right click, go to object mode. Oops, let's make sure that we have this guy selected. And right click, go to edge mode, double click that outside edge, hit my extrude tool, and I'm going to create that sill that goes around that window. Do the same thing for the inside, hit extrude, bring that in, go to object mode. I'm just going to place that. You can see how my pivot point matched the object that I copied it from, which is my building. So let's hit center pivot and move that in here. Looks pretty cool. Let's hit Control D again. Let's move this over here. Just moving it over a little bit. Let's double check our reference to see how close they are. And so these guys are a lot thinner. So let's grab this guy, right click, go to vertex mode. Holding shift, I'm selecting both sides. Let's go to wireframe mode. So I held shift and I selected both sides of my verts here. I'm going to hit R and just kind of scale these guys in, giving myself that space I need. Same thing with this guy. Vertex mode, holding shift, bring these guys in. Object mode, Control D, move this over. Alright, so it's getting there. We also need a little ridge area that kind of comes in and then up like that. So let's grab objects that are in our scene just to make our life easier. Let's shift this up. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit R and scale this up and out. Move that into place. Right click, go to vertex mode. Just pull it up and match it to our windowsills. Okay. Let's double check that. It looks like our windows we have a lot more room on our right hand side than our left hand side. So we might have to shift all of these windows over. So notice how I selected the back of the building and I right clicked, went to vertex mode. So let's make sure we're on our building, right click on the building, go to vertex mode, select all these guys. I'm just going to shift them over a little bit here so you can see in shaded view. So that gives me a little more space. Alright. And so now we can just select these windowsills, hitting 4, and just line them up with the inside of these windows. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Same thing with this guy. Right click, go to vertex mode. Just gonna line this up here. Alright. See how that looks. Great. So let's look at the distance. So it's a little ledge, and then we're going to extrude upward. So we're going to actually create just this little part here. And so it looks like it touches the wall here, and it does not touch the wall here. So vertex mode, let's pull this down. It's a little ledge. And let's pull this all the way to the right. Actually, let's scale these out uniformly. So something like this. Looks good. Let's select this top face and extrude that up. Alright, we're getting there. And again, we could always, like this is like working with clay. So, you're imagining that you're kind of moving, you can move other pieces out a little bit more to give you more space. We can move verts around, If we do things like this where we damage the back of our building when we're moving things around, it's as easy as just grabbing an edge, just moving it over. So, but yeah, that's the fun part about this. Alright, so we got this stuff in place. Now, a neat trick I'm going to show you right now is something called ambient occlusion. And what that'll allow us to do is when we render it, it'll give us a really beautiful shaded view of our building. And so that's going to help us a lot when we model. And so the way to set that up is next to display, there's a section called renderer. And right now we have a normal render layer. If I highlight everything and I click this last button that says create new layer, and I go to that new layer, that'll apply just by creating a new layer and having it selected. It'll apply, you can see, all of those things to their own render layer. Okay? So if I hit render right now, what you'll notice is it renders a little shaded view of my building. But what I want is, so let's zoom in a little bit. I want a ambient occlusion, like a rendered version of it with all shadows, so I can see that surface geometry that I'm not seeing. So I'm going to right click on this top layer, go to attributes, go to presets, and turn on occlusion. So let's hit Control A, or you can click to go back into this view. If I want to just look at my view how it normally looks, so when I'm modeling I'll work in this view. If I want to see a really beautiful render of my view, I click this guy, and then I hit my render view. And what you'll notice is I get a really beautiful shaded view of my building. So I can really see all of the hard work and the surface geometry I'm working in. Okay, I can rotate it, check out the different views. And so this is going to be, you're going to be using this a lot when you go to render your films later on. Okay, so let's jump back down to our master layer. And so for now, that's the end of this tutorial. In the next chapter, we're going to actually tackle modeling out these windows on the first floor. We have a couple here, and then modeling that arc.